Realization Part 4. If you have seen a certain country and a man forces you to say that you have not seen it, still in your heart of hearts you know you have. So when you see religion and God in a more intense sense, then you see this external world, nothing will be able to shake your belief. Then you will have real faith. That is what is meant by the words in your gospel, he who has faith even as a grain of mustard seed. Then you will know the truth because you have become the truth. This is the watchword of the Vedanta. Realize religion, no talking will do. But it is done with great difficulty. He has hidden himself inside the atom, this ancient one who resides in the inmost recess of every human heart. The sages realized him through the power of introspection and got beyond both joy and misery, beyond what we call virtue and vice, beyond good and bad deeds, beyond being and non being. He who has seen him has seen the reality. But what then about heaven? It was the idea of happiness minus unhappiness. That is to say, that what we want is the joys of this life minus its sorrows. That is a very good idea, no doubt. It comes naturally. But it is a mistake throughout because there is no such thing as absolute good, nor any such thing as absolute evil. You have all heard of that rich man in Rome who learnt one day that he had only about £1,000,000 of his property left. He said, "What shall I do tomorrow?" and forthwith committed suicide. £1,000,000 was poverty to him. What is joy and what is sorrow? It is a vanishing quantity, continuously vanishing. When I was a child, I thought if I could be a cabman, it would be the very acme of happiness for me to drive about. I do not think so now. To what joy will you cling? This is the one point we must all try to understand, and it is one of the last superstitions to leave us. Everyone's idea of pleasure is different. I have seen a man who's not happy unless he swallows a lump of opium every day. He may dream of a heaven where the land is made of opium. That would be a very bad heaven for me. Again and again in Arabian poetry, we read of heaven with beautiful gardens through which rivers run. I lived much of my life in a country where there is too much water, many villages are flooded, and thousands of lives are sacrificed every year. So my heaven would not have gardens through which rivers flow. I would have a land where very little rain falls. Our pleasures are always changing. If a young man dreams of heaven, he dreams of a heaven where he will have a beautiful wife. When that same man becomes old, he does not want a wife. It is our necessities which make our heaven, and the heaven changes with the change of our necessities. If we had a heaven like that desired by those to whom sense enjoyment is the very end of existence, then we would not progress. That would be the most terrible curse we could pronounce on the soul. Is this all we can come to? A little weeping and dancing and then to die like a dog? What a curse you pronounce on the head of humanity when you long for these things. That is what you do when you cry after the joys of this world, for you do not know what true joy is. What philosophy insists on is not to give up joys, but to know what joys really are. The Norwegian heaven is a tremendous fighting place where they all sit before Odin, they have a wild boar hunt, and then they go to war and slash each other to pieces. But in the some way or another, after a few hours of such fighting, the wounds are all healed up, and they go into the hall where the boar had been roasted and have a carousal. And then the wild boar takes form again, ready to be hunted the next day. That is much the same thing as our heaven, not a whit worse, only our ideas may be a little more refined. We want to hunt wild boars and get to a place where all enjoyments will continue, just as the Norwegian imagines that the wild boar is hunted and eaten every day and recovers the next day. Now, philosophy insists that there is a joy which is absolute, which never changes. That joy cannot be the joys and pleasures we have in this life. And yet, Vedanta shows that everything that is joyful in this life is but a particle of that real life, because that is the only joy there is. Every moment, really, we are enjoying the absolute bliss, though covered up, misunderstood, and caricatured. Wherever there is any blessing, blissfulness, or joy, even the joy of the thief in stealing, it is that absolute bliss coming out, only it has become obscured, muddled up, as it were, with all sorts of extraneous conditions and misunderstood. But to understand that, we have to go through the negation, and then the positive side will begin. We have to give up ignorance and all that is false, and then truth will begin to reveal itself to us. When we have grasped the truth, things which we gave up at first will take new forms and shapes, will appear to us in a new light and become defied. They will have become sublimated, and then we shall understand them in a true light. But to understand them, we have first to get a glimpse of truth. We must give them up at first, and then we get them back again defied. We have to give up all our miseries and sorrows, all our little joys. That which all the Vedas declare, which is proclaimed by all penances, seeking which men lead lives of continence, I will tell you in one word, it is Om. You will find this word Om praised very much in the Vedas, and it is held to be very sacred.